Faster than a fraudulent performance measure, stronger than a misplaced decimal point, able to leap complex compliance requirements at a single bound. It's Super Auditor! Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Auditors Save the World, one audit project at a time, where we bring you thrilling tales of daring audits and brave financial reviews. Here, our heroes don't wear capes, but they do wield the power of empirical evidence. Brought to you by the pros at Yellowbook-CPE. In each episode, we interview those legendary auditors who have truly rescued the day. Stay tuned, listeners, because this is one story you won't want to miss. And folks, don't forget to subscribe to our show in your podcast app of choice. And now, here's your host, Lita Hart-Fanta.
Leading a mighty team of performance auditors, SuperDoug blasts through a wide variety of audit topics with laser focus and calm command. And when the issues are too big for one report, SuperDoug splits them in two, twice the impact, double the dialogue, and more face time with those who govern. Because in Doug's world, an audit report isn't just a document, it's a catalyst for change. With the power of performance audits and input from the citizenry, Doug builds stronger communities, protects public trust, and ensures every dollar does the most good. So tune in, truth seekers and transparency lovers, as we soar alongside the hero that proves that integrity, insight, and innovation matter in local government.
I was the city auditor for Kansas City for 11 and a half years.
Okay.
A little over 11 and a half. But my total career with the city was 31. In the city auditor's office, at aviation as their internal auditor, and then back to the city auditor's office.
Okay. Okay, great. You said you learned some lessons as a city auditor.
Yeah.
That you'd like to share with us.
Right. We did an audit of animal control, and I know you've had a few of those on the podcast, so we won't delve too deep into the issues of that audit. But, council asked us to do the audit, and it was pretty broad. They wanted us to look at current practices, identify recommended practices, what we were doing, what we weren't doing well. And so we did the audit. And part of the audit was pointing out some issues that we had between the sheltering contractor and city enforcement staff. That was one part of the audit. Another part was how city staff was doing their enforcement efforts, and not so good. And then another part of that audit was talking about using the data they had to do a better job of managing the resources, the staff, understanding what was going on in the organization, using the data.
Okay.
And some of my staff, we had this big, massive audit, and they said, hey, why don't we pull this last piece about the data analysis and use and off this and create another report? And I kind of went, no, I want to keep everything together because that's kind of how the council asked for it. They want to know everything at one point in time. So it's a really big, kind of a dense audit report.
How long was it? Like 80 pages?
No, a big one for us might have been 30 or 40 pages.
30 or 40, okay. And how long did you take to do the audit? Do you remember how long it took you?
Off the top of my head, I don't, but I know it was probably 7, 8, 9 months of time with a couple of folks working on it.
Okay, good. Okay, thanks.
So it was a big audit, and we put more people on it, and then we had to add some staff to it over time because it was just becoming bigger because we kept on finding more stuff that they needed to. We were kind of at the bottom of the hole and we dug it deeper. But it was all good information.
Did you reach China or did you stop short of China?
No, not quite. We didn't get quite that far, but it was a lot of great information. But in retrospect, after it was done, it's like we should have had 2 audit reports. And we always talk about our bosses were always wondering, what are you doing? How many reports? They always want more. Well, if we'd split that, we would have gotten 2 audit reports for that amount of work. So 2 more plate appearances to get before council and say, hey, here's this, and then here's this. And then each of those elements would have had maybe more emphasis on them.
Yeah.
And maybe a different emphasis. And so I decided at that point, let's look for opportunities when we're doing audits. whether we had two audit objectives that could be split out and we had a lot of information for both, we could do that. Or maybe it just made sense to split something, or we're doing an audit. You know how you find that next thing is like, oh, here's something else. Let's just add it into our work steps, and the audit grows and it's very related to your scope. So it's sort of scope creep, but not entirely a whole new
Right.
scope.
Right.
And so looking for those opportunities to do those types of things. And one of those was we did a massive audit for the council in 2020. August of 2020, they directed me to do an audit. So we're talking the height of COVID. We are all working remote.
Mm-hmm.
They said, we want you to take a look at our facilities use, look at our leased properties that we have, see if we could move people in the leased properties back into City Hall. Oh, and by the way, do we have properties that we could sell?
Oh, by the way.
The massive, massive audit.
Sure.
We're all working at home in our basements in silos. So they direct me to do that on August 20th, 2020, and they
Mhm.
wanted a report by December 2nd of 2020.
Okay.
71 working days. And so we got it figured out, and we pretty much dropped everything we were doing. We put 4 audits on hold. We finished one up. We had 2 more weeks to do. We got that done, got it to management.
Wow.
And so we start this work. And the silver lining was we learned how better to work together remotely through that audit. We started automating digitizing more of our work papers because of this audit. So that's the silver lining. We got it done. We issued the first report by December 2nd. So that was great. And we had to wait till, another few weeks to get management's response, but I just issued it, said, we'll get your response later. But what we found in that audit was we're looking at properties and lease management. We had done a lease management audit in 2015. We found some of the same problems. We did not have the time to add that to this work. So after this audit was done, when we had other things cleared up, we started another lease management audit, kind of a follow-up on what we did the last time. But if not for this audit looking at facilities across the city, we wouldn't have known about that. We probably wouldn't have done
Okay.
that audit.
Okay.
So, and we found that there was, we were owed like $400,000, $450,000 in back rent. There's money that was foregone because they didn't up the rents in accordance with the contracts. The first time we did the audit, we said, you need policies and procedures. They had a lease manager. And so by the time we got around this time, that lease manager was gone. We couldn't find the policies and procedures. So it was a good time to do the audit, and it was like an unexpected thing. So that was kind of fun to find that, but I was disappointed that some of the same things existed still, 5-6 years later.
Oh, that's beautiful. So you delivered what they wanted within their 71 days. It reminded you of the lease issue. And
We
then
ran across it. We actually saw that they weren't doing what they were supposed to do, and we just stopped that. Let's finish this.
that's smart. Very smart. And then you delivered them another really relevant, important piece of work 5 months later.
In July.
Yeah, or even sooner.
6 months later, we had that audit out the door. So because we were wrapping up 4 other audits that we'd put on hold.
Sure.
So
Because you did this thing for them. Right.
right.
Yeah.
So the animal control audit came into play again a little bit. And then we were doing an audit of short-term rentals, which the initial impetus for this was kind of a public suggestion. And so we're doing the audit, and it actually had a couple of objectives related to impact on convention and tourism fees, and then kind of a permit compliance element.
You mean like Airbnb things
Right.
and
Airbnb, Vrbo, the whole short-term rental thing.
wow.
And what we found with the taxes issue, there was a weird thing in Missouri state law that we could not assess convention and tourism taxes on short-term rentals because they had less than 8 units. So that was a hole in the legislation. The city was getting ready to do its annual go back to the legislative priorities to the Missouri General Assembly. And we knew that was coming up. We had the audit almost done. We peeled off the first objective related to the convention, tourism, and tax fees because we wanted them to have that audit in hand so that they had a little more information to say, this is why this is a priority for us. And so We issued that audit at the end of November of 22. And then, a week later, we issued the next audit looking at the compliance piece, but we split that on purpose to do that.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah, it was, again, paying attention to, that lesson learned and kicking myself in the seat of the pants a few times over that. Stop doing that type of thing, looking for these opportunities. And it was really a good way to be responsive to the council's needs. It would have been a good audit altogether, but by doing it as two reports, they each had their own air. They both had their own emphasis, their own importance versus just one audit. And again, we had two more plate appearances in front of council.
Did you feel like city council responded better or management responded better having split up? What did you see the difference was in their response?
I think the council appreciated that being split so that they had that information to help support their legislative priorities. I don't think management really cared that much about whether we kept it together or not. We just told them we were doing it, and they were perfectly fine because they saw the rationale behind this one. And the nice thing is we were saying, okay, we made a recommendation to the council to make a recommendation to, or take a legislative priority to the state. Well, they took a different tact and put a ballot measure on for the public to vote on, specifically for short-term rental fees and taxes, similar to the convention and tourism tax, and the public voted for it.
Okay.
They said yes.
Okay.
So that was the outcome of that first audit. And then the second one was really looking at compliance with the what was on the ordinances. And there was a gaping hole in the ordinances. The only way you could have an illegal short-term rental at the time basically was if you caught somebody staying in one that was not permitted. It was not illegal to rent a non-permitted. It was not illegal to collect money off of it. And that's a very common thing to have those, if it's not permitted, you can't use it. And if it's not permitted, you can't collect money on it. And so council took our recommendations and passed new legislation to close that gap in the process. So that made it a lot easier for management and staff to enforce the rules. And there might be some unintended consequences of fewer Airbnb short-term rentals being around town. There was a lot of consternation from folks that had started that as like a secondary business for themselves.
Does that segue us into the discussion of the public requesting audits? How did you manage that process?
I started asking I can't remember how or why I did it. I must have seen something, had a conversation with somebody, but I think it was February of 2014. We put it on our website. We had a Twitter account in Kansas City. Again, this is all talk about my Kansas City experience, not my Johnson County. I've only got 5 audits under my belt here. But we started asking the public. We had press releases put out. We put it on our Twitter account. We put it on our website. We want your ideas. And the public responded and gave us a lot of topics. And so it was just one more input into our annual audit selection process. And so we got audit, one of the first audits we did, I actually have a Excel spreadsheet up here that I can take a look real quick on our public ideas and also a couple of complaints. So a couple of the first ones we did were related to street fee permits and street plate requirements, were kind of based on public comments. But one that really sticks in my mind is our audit of the city's bike plan. We got several suggestions from the public that the city has a policy on wanting to be a silver bike-friendly city by X time. How's that going? Was their question. They almost wrote the audit objective for us. And so we thought, that's a pretty good idea. Let's do that audit. And so we did. And we looked at recommended practices, federal guidelines on bike lanes, et cetera. And we identified things a bike plan should have, and we didn't have a lot of those. Staff said, it's just blue lines on a map. That's in the audit report. And then the press picks it up, goes, scathing audit report. And then they try to get me to say it's scathing. And I said, no, it's just a critical audit, and there's a lot of opportunities for improvement. But that was that first really big one that we did that had a really good objective. Sometimes people give us audit objective or an audit topic, audit San Francisco. Sorry, I work in Kansas City. I can't audit San Francisco.
Sure.
Or they say audit TIF, aviation, water. Well, what exactly?
Sure.
So it was like the better the information, we could have a really good idea of, okay, this could be a good audit topic for us. And sometimes something was extremely particular to, we don't like how, or we got a concern or I'm upset how Public Works is marking this street or setting up parking on this block. I can't do that, but I would send the complaint or the concern to the Public Works director. And these
Okay.
were mostly anonymous. And even if that one had not been, I would not have sent somebody's name or email address with that.
Okay.
And we just, I would collect those topics, and we did, I think 11 or 13, 11 to 12 audits based on public suggestions. There's one, we got a public suggestion and it was so specific. I thought, man, maybe that's a staff person in that department. I'm not going to out them. So we did not say that audit was done. And I have since met that person. They were a former employee, not in the department it was about employee benefits still being paid for terminated employees for health benefits. And so that was kind of interesting. Actually meet somebody that had given us the audit suggestion that we actually did. But it was just a wide range of things. Our Public Improvements Advisory Council, where we have, tax monies to do public improvements in the neighborhoods or in the districts.
Well, that's fascinating. So, because it was anonymous, you didn't have to get back with them and say, "This is what we did with your suggestion." You just used your judgment and said, "This one sounds like something we could achieve." And it kind of aligns with city council's concerns. Did you do that too? Kinda go,
Not to that great extent, but
"Okay.
we would do kind of a Delphi technique for audit selection in the office. We would have a list of 80 to 200 audit topics, and I would tell staff, you get a vote for 6. You can put all 6 of your votes on one topic, or you can vote on 6 topics. And then we would talk about those as an office. Everything that got a vote, plus there's things that I thought we still needed to talk about, we would get to talk about. And then we would winnow that list down. Do we do this now? Do we not do this? Wait. Or, yeah, that's a really good audit. And then I would say, okay, now you get 3 votes. And then once that was done, I would talk with my audit managers, and we would start trying to plan, where do we go with this? And then we started asking council. We give them a list of like 15 to 20 topics. What are you interested in? Not what you want us to do. What are you interested in? And just use that as another piece of input. We'd also ask staff, what one audit do you want to do? What one audit should we do? Even if you don't want to do it, just to help us structure what we wanted to pick going next. And, we're kind of looking at risks from a level of like, what type of risk is this? Reputational, controls. And that's where those public ideas went in. And I always told people, I can't guarantee we will do this audit. I will guarantee it will receive equal consideration to anything the council suggests, anything that I think of. And that's what we did. And we got a number of good suggestions. And it was, I think it's a really good way to engage the public.
Oh, totally. Yeah, that's a great yeah, I love it."
And sometimes people would check back and say, hey, you didn't do my audit. It's like, well, submit it again. It just didn't rise to the top this year. Sorry.
Yeah, well, if you've got, what'd you say, 120 potential topics that you were trying to get 5 projects
In
out of?
total, we probably averaged 100 a year that we were thinking about.
Yeah.
And sometimes there's audits that we had to do by ordinance,
Mhm.
or there's a contract.
Sure.
And then from time to time, the council would actually pass a resolution as a body saying, we want the city auditor to do an audit of X, which was the animal control audit.
Mhm.
That one's funny. That started out as a council member suggesting it, and I put it on the list, and we didn't pick it. And then more things happened, and then it became a directive. And then we worked with them to develop the resolution saying, here's what we want you to do.
And now, a word from our sponsor. Today's episode is brought to you by Yellowbook-CPE, the heroes behind the jumbo bundle of self-study courses. With a 1-year subscription, you get access to over
180 hours
of top-notch CPE content. Dive into thrilling tales of agile, IT auditing, fraud, and internal controls. All courses carry NASBA's quality seal, so you know they've got the superpower of trustworthiness. Just click the link in the description to sign up. And now, back to our story.
Give us a sense of the size of your audit team at that time. How many people did you have on your team?
When I left, we were down to 10 positions,
Okay.
and that included me and our executive
Admin assistant.
administrative secretary.
All right.
When I started, we had maybe 14 back in 2013. And then there were some retirements, and then they pulled, positions away from us, and, this, that, and the other thing. That's where we got to 11 at one point, and then we went back down to 10.
Okay. And how many audits could you guys get accomplished in a year?
Depending on how we scoped and what was going on, we were trying to schedule 6 to 8, and for a while, we were probably hitting that 7 to 8 number.
Okay.
The last couple, we were hitting 8 and 9.
Yeah. Splitting them off would increase that number, but that doesn't really matter to anybody.
Yeah, it's like we were doing 6 for a while, and some of it was we were down audit managers, and then we were able to bump it up to 9, and we hit that 9. So it was a lot of work, pushing people to, limits at some points in time, but we got the work out the door. These are fun projects. Sometimes you might cuss a lot about them while you're in it, but it's a great gig. You're doing work that matters to your community and can help improve the place you live.
Well, that's beautiful. That's beautiful. How did you cultivate that trusting relationship with city council? How'd that happen?
I was one of their 3 direct reports, and, we were one floor below council, and I had access, and I would go up to the floor, even if it was just to say hi to people, talk to their aides, see what's going on. And it's just seeing and being seen. I think sometimes, even if you have nothing that you really got to deal with, it's just simply saying, hi, how you doing today?
Yeah.
It gives that opportunity to say, by the way, have you thought about this? Or I'm thinking about this. Can you help me with this? Or do you have an audit on X? We always jokingly said, if there's something you're thinking about doing, there's probably an audit for it. And I was known for hearing them talking in various council committees about X, Y, or Z, and like, there's an audit, and I would send them the report so that they had a little more context for the thing they were talking with. And they'd say, Doug, how do you know about all those things? I've been here a long time. I know where all that stuff is.
Yeah. Beautiful.
But it's just, those constant little touch points. But in Kansas City, you have term limits. So they can be they can be a council member for 2 terms. You could go from council member to mayor, and be there for a long time. But you can always come back after laying out a cycle as well. But one year I had a turnover of 9 out of 13.
Oops. Oh, you had to start fresh with establishing that relationships.
I always try to do, before they took office, to say, here's what we do, and just give them more information while they're already drinking from the fire hose, but always trying to teach and, explain what we do. Because most people don't know what we do as performance auditors. They all think we're CPAs doing accounting work, and we're not.
Right.
Yeah. And like I often tell people, they say, well, there's this type of audit and operational and compliance. I correct them and go, no, those are all performance audits. Oh, there's IT audits. Well, those are technically performance audit as well. Just a different type of performance audit.
You gave us a picture of what it would be like to be in your shoes, where you got ideas for what to do, the variety of topics that your team could cover, and how closely you work with city council and got them what they need so that they could make good decisions on laws. I mean, that's about as good as it gets right there for an auditor.
Yeah, those were huge wins.
Thank you, brave listeners, for joining us on this adventure. We appreciate your loyalty. Take a moment to subscribe and share this podcast with all your audit allies. And don't miss out on Yellowbook-CPE's upcoming webinars. Because every superhero needs their training, and Yellowbook-CPE offers continuing education that's relevant, convenient, and as thrilling as the fight for justice. Until next time, audit on!